right, hello everyone. Happy Monday. How is everybody today? Hope you are having a wonderful day, wonderful start to your week. I am just going to pull up my chat here, see what you guys are up to, and we will go ahead and get started. So as you can see, we've got some nails on here. I've got my little swap outs here, you guys. You always know that I swap out for the final look sometimes here, but we're going to be doing a beautiful extension, and I'm going to show you guys how to do a really fun fall ombre, and then maybe add in a few little odds and ends into that, just depending on how much time we've got here today. But let's go ahead and get started. So first thing I'm going to do, I misplaced my toenail clippers here. Let me find those real quick. Yolanda Torres says, hi, what are you doing today? I was just telling you guys, we're going to be doing some acrylic extensions and a really pretty fun fall ombre. And we may get to do some other extra art. You just got to stick with me and see what we're doing today. Let's see. J. Rob says, I just got last week's Whatnot. Oh my gosh, you guys, if you haven't been on our Whatnot channel, or I guess channel app, you guys, our Whatnot live stream, you have to join us on there. We have a lot of products that are not on our website anymore, but we do have them available on our Whatnot. And some of the things that I might have time for are some of our stamping designs. Those are now available on our Whatnot live stream until they're gone. So make sure if you want to enjoy our live streams, if you want to join us, make sure to subscribe to our Whatnot channel. Join us there when we go live. We're going to be auctioning off a whole bunch of different really super fun things. So first thing I started with here is just shortening up those free edges on my nails. I always like to cut those a little bit shorter so that way when I do put my forms on, they're not going to interfere with my form application. So just something that I like to do to make sure that I'm getting my forms flush up underneath those natural nails. Now let's start the rest of our prep. Yolanda's asking, can you put the link to that app? Moderators, if you are with us already, if you're able to put that link for Whatnot in the chat, I'm not sure if you're able to do that or not, but if we can do that, let's get that app for people. Because yeah, you guys, I would love for you guys to join us on Whatnot as well. It's super fun, super fun. All right, let's come in nice and close so you guys can see what I'm doing. First thing I'm going to always start with, whether I'm working on acrylics, whether I'm working on hard gels, even if I'm just doing gel polish, I'm always going to go through and push back the cuticles. Now you guys, these two nails are already done. We're not worried too much about those, but just gently going through, pushing back that cuticles. Now you guys, my nails are super, super grown out here on a couple of them. I filled in some of them last week for you guys to see on our live stream. But when you're pushing back the cuticles, I'll show you on this one that needs a fill desperately. All you need to do is just give it a quick little push. So just like I was doing right on that trainer hand, just a quick little push. That's all you really need to do. You don't have to spend a ton of time really going through trying to completely clean all of that excess protein growth off of there. We're going to do that with our electric file. So just really quickly, just like I showed you, really quickly push back those cuticles, and then you're going to be ready to go on to your electric file. Now, I'm going to change out my bit here. I'm going to slide that a little bit farther down in there. I've got an older sanding band here that I was using on the nails previously. And so I'm going to change that out. I always want to make sure that I'm starting with a brand new, fresh sanding band for every client. I don't want to try to reuse these. They're not something that you can sanitize and disinfect. So always start with a brand new one. And today I am using our new e-file that is launching for our sale November 1st. So if you are interested in the e-file, you guys, let me back out just a little bit here. There we go. It is a beautiful e-file. It is very balanced. It is a brushless motor, which means it's going to be super, super quiet. You guys, even when I turn this on, I'm going to turn my speed to about, I'll turn that to about 5,000 RPMs. With my speed on, I can barely hear that it's on. So if you're looking for a super, super quiet e-file, we're going to have an amazing bundle deal on this. And you guys, we actually have a portable unit and the desktop unit, which I'm using right now. They're going to be in a bundle deal for you guys. You're gonna be shocked at how much this bundle deal is. The value is over $700 for both of the e-files. Altogether, you're going to get both of the full e-files for $300. So you guys make sure, check out our sale starting November 1st, and you have to get this e-file if you are looking to get started with an e-file, or even if you're an experienced tech and you just need a replacement or you need a couple of replacements. It's a great option for you. So all I did was just gently remove the shine from that natural nail, very lightly up around that cuticle area and then through the body of the rest of the nails. And then we'll go through, we'll dust off that nail and really make sure that you're really getting all of that dust off of there. And then let's see, somebody's asking what grit is the sanding band? What I'm using here was a 150 grit, and that is the same as what our hand file, the hand file that I would normally use to finish my enhancements with. So 150 medium grit sanding band. And again, we're going to dust off those nails. Then I'm going to grab my swipe, and swipe is our cleanser. So I'm going to just pump a little bit of that onto my manicure brush. I'm going to go through, give those nails a quick scrub. That's going to help to remove any of those last little bits of tiny little particles of dust that may be on that nail. And then it's also going to help to cleanse the nail. So you're going to have a nice clean, dry surface. It's also going to take care of any germs or bacteria that may be on the nail. And it's going to give us that perfect surface to apply our protein bond and then our product. So protein bond is our bonder. It's not a primer, it is a bonder, and it works kind of like a double-sided tape. So what I mean by that is, let me come in nice and close. The protein bond is going to adhere to the nail plate, but it's going to leave a sticky surface to bond to whatever else you put on top of it. So again, if you're working with acrylic, hard gels, gel polish, it's going to help your product adhere a little bit better. So you're going to have less issues with lifting and things like that. So when you're working with acrylics or hard gels, I always like to do 2 coats of my protein bond. This way you're going to get really good adhesion all the way through the nail, and just to make sure that you've got a really good even coverage with your protein bond. So 2 coats of protein bond, and making sure that you're not flooding that up into the cuticle area or down along those side walls. So nice and clean on there. All right, now you guys, who is ready for acrylic? Are you guys excited to work with acrylic today? Because I am. I'm excited. That's what we're going to be working with, and then we're going to be doing some fun art designs today. Now I'm going to start by sculpting, and I'm going to take one of our forms, peel that off the back. I'm going to take that little tab out of the center. Don't just throw that little tab away. Stick that right on the back of your form. That's going to help to give your form a little bit more of a firm feeling and a little bit more durability. All right, you guys, looks like you're excited for acrylics. Yes, absolutely. So we're just going to pinch together that form, pinch those 2 little silver tabs together as evenly as we can. And then you can see we're going to be doing more of an almond, maybe an almondetto today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch the end of my form. So this way, we're going to get a little bit more of that tapered shape, and I can actually create that almond. Okay, I'm going to open up that top perforation, and then we'll get this form right up underneath our nail. And if you can see, let me turn this on the side and I'll get nice and close so you can see. We're going to take our form, and when I put my forms on, I'm not going to just shove that form right flush up underneath that nail. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start at a slight downward angle, bring that form up under the free edge and catch that free edge. Now I can just start to lift up on the end of my form, rock that up until that form comes nice and straight out from my natural nail. Then I'll secure that down on the sides. So now my form is going to be nice and flush under that nail. If we look from the free edge, you're not going to have any gaps underneath there. Now I am looking at this straight on now, and I do see that it's a little bit crooked, so I want to open that up on the sides and adjust that to make sure that my form is coming nice and straight out from that natural nail. Now I am going to pinch my form just a little bit shorter. We're not going to be doing crazy long nails today, but I think that's going to be about the length that we're going to bring our acrylic out to. Okay. All right, now let's get ready for our acrylic. So we're going to be using our Cover Pink acrylic today. This is just a really pretty nude color. And I'm going to grab some towels, and I'm using our table towels, but I just cut those up into smaller pieces to make it a little bit easier for me. And if I can find my brush, I am going to be working with Greg's Signature Series brush today. This is a size 12. It's a good size brush. It's not too small, it's not too large. It's just right in the middle. It's just a perfect size brush for you to be using. And I've got my Dappen dish, and my Dappen dish is nice and clean, but if you do have old monomer from your last application, always make sure to soak that up, clean off your Dappen dish, and change out your monomer. So this way you're not going to be trying to use any monomer that maybe has been sitting or maybe has been contaminated with some old acrylic. So always start with fresh monomer. And today we're going to be using our traditional acrylic, and that's with the pink label. So always make sure if you're using the pink label powders, you're using the pink label liquid. And we'll open that up. Let's give ourselves a good amount of liquid. I'm going to touch my brush to the top of my bottle and just pour that liquid down the brush. This way it's going to go straight down into our Dappen dish, and it's not going to dribble down the sides of my bottle. So it's going to keep everything nice and clean. And we'll close that up. Now you can see, actually, can you see? You guys can see right into my Dappen dish. Notice that my liquid isn't all the way filled to the very top of my Dappen dish. I don't want it that full. If you notice, my liquid is really just about to the top of my bristles. So right up to the ferrule. That's as much as I'm ever going to fill my Dappen dish, because this way I have plenty of space in between the liquid and the top to dab off my brush without it still being down into that liquid. Okay, so make sure you've got about half full if you're doing a full set. You can always change out your liquid and you can always refill, but it's going to be harder if your liquid is full all the way to the very top to dab out the proper amount of liquid. So just about to the top of the bristles. Now, we're going to be working on our form here, and you guys, I want to make sure that you're able to see exactly what I'm doing. So maybe we'll push out back just a little bit there. Okay. All right. So when we're working, sorry you guys, my voice stopped for just a second there. My words stopped for just a second. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press my brush into the liquid, and what that's going to do, that is going to press out any air bubbles that might be in my brush. When you wipe your brush on your table towel, every time you wipe that, you'll see that those bristles spread apart just a little bit, and air is going to get trapped in there. So every time you go into your monomer, you want to make sure that you're pressing out those bubbles, so that way they're not going to end up in your nail. Okay, so just give your brush a little dab in there. Doesn't have to be very forceful, but just enough to release those air bubbles. I'm going to lift my brush out. Let's come in nice and close. All right. So I'm going to lift my brush out. I'm going to tap the back side onto my Dappen dish. Now here's where I think a lot of beginners struggle, is because a lot of times I'll see people and they'll drain their whole brush out, or they'll drag their brush up the side of their Dappen dish, or they'll wipe out the back side, wipe the front side, wipe, 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 wipe. You guys, what that's doing, that's completely draining all of the liquid from your brush. And then when you go into your powder, you're going to get a really dry, chunky pearl. Actually, it's not even a pearl, okay? It's just a dry, chunky blob of acrylic, and that's not what we want. What we want is a nice fluffy, as Greg would say, a nice fluffy pearl. So I'm going to take my brush, again, dab down into the liquid. I'm going to tap the back side of my brush, and you can see every time I tap my brush, it's going to release liquid from the point of that brush. So again, tap the back side, release the liquid. Okay. If I want a large pearl, I'll only tap my brush one time. If I want a smaller pearl, I may tap that a second time, release a little bit more liquid. If I want an even smaller pearl, I'll tap my brush and release even more liquid. So that's going to be how you're going to adjust the amount of powder you're going to be able to pick up. So again, we're going to tap the back side of my brush. Now, I've released liquid from the back side of my brush. Now I want to use the front side of my brush to pick up my acrylic, because that's where all the monomer is. So I'm going to turn my brush over. I'm going to go into my powder. I'm going to do a press and pull motion. So I'm going to press and pull, and then I'm going to bounce, 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 and that's how I'm going to pick up that really nice pearl. Okay, so you can see that really nice fluffy pearl there. I'm going to tap down my powder every time I go to pick up a pearl so that I've got a nice clean space to pick that up. Okay, so again, I'm going to tap out the back side. I'm going to press and pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. Now, I'm going to just allow that product to absorb. So just allow that powder to absorb into that pearl. And then we're going to set this onto the nail. Now, I want to show you guys something before I actually set that onto the nail. I want to be working in more of a clay form. So if you guys can take a look here, you can see I've got a form here. So if I pick up a pearl and I press and pull, bounce, 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 and I take that pearl, let it absorb, but I set that onto my form right away. Do you see how fast my product is going to run and flow? I'm going to have to be chasing that product all over my form to get it into place. And you can also see what's happening is it's getting stuck in my brush. And this is probably one of the ways that beginners especially get their brushes clogged, is because they're chasing after wet product and it's getting stuck in the brush. Okay, so first of all, make sure that you do clean out that brush. So make sure that you are wiping out that brush really well to get all of that acrylic out of there. But what we want to do instead is we actually want to bring this first pearl to more of a clay-like form. So I'm going to tap down my powder. I'm going to dab my brush into the monomer. I'm going to dab the back side, turn my brush over. I'm going to press and pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. Let that powder absorb, and then, oops, you guys, sorry, you can't see what I'm doing here. I want you to see this, okay? So again, tap our brush on the back side, turn it over. We're going to press and pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. Let that powder absorb, and then I'm going to drain out the extra liquid. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. And in that time, you're going to see that pearl go from a little bit more of kind of that orange peel texture to a little bit more of a matte look. And that's what we actually want on our form. Okay, so one more time, I'm going to show you exactly what is going to happen now. Okay, so again, press and pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. Let that powder absorb into the liquid. Drain out 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I set that onto my form, I'm going to press that down, use some pressure, release my brush, wipe out my brush. Now you can see that that pearl is really just going to stay where I put it. I'm going to have the ability to move that where I want and sculpt in and create the shape that I want. If I want a little bit more of a rounded shape, I can come in and sculpt in a little bit more of a rounded shape. But you can see it's not running like that first one. So we're always going to start on our form by building out in clay form. Okay, so let me go ahead and bring our nail on in here so you guys can actually see. All right, looks good. So again, I'm going to dab in my brush, release those air bubbles. I'm going to tap out the back side, turn my brush over. I'm going to press and pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. I'm going to take that pearl, drain out the liquid. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks a little bit more matte. I'm going to set that right onto my form. I'm going to press my brush down, clean out my brush, press that product so it's nice and even thickness from side to side. Then I'm going to use the edge of my brush. I'm going to tuck in on the sides, and then I'm going to walk that product up into the corner. Tuck in on the sides, step, step, step up into the corner. I'm going to clean out my brush there. There was a little bit of product stuck in there. I'm going to press all the way across, even from side to side, tuck in on the edge, and then walk that bulk up into the corner. If it ever feels like your brush is sticking to your product, wipe out your brush because there's probably a little bit of acrylic stuck in there, and that's what's probably sticking to your brush or sticking to the nail. Okay, I'm going through and just kind of pressing the product out, walking across the surface, keeping it even from side to side. And then as I'm pressing, I'm pulling down towards the free edge. So pressing and pulling, bringing that product down to the free edge, tucking in on the sides, tucking in on the sides. And if we want to, we're going to be creating a little bit more of an almondetto. So I'm just going to start to tuck in the point of that nail. Once that product has started to set, oops, sorry guys, there we go. Once it's starting to set, we can just blend through all the way through that nail, making sure everything is nice and even. Now, at this point, we've got our free edge. All we're going to do now is basically overlay from the cuticle to the free edge, okay? So if you're working with tips, you're going to apply your tip, and now you're going to do the same exact overlay if it's a tip versus a sculpt, just like we've got here, okay? Now, when we're working by our cuticle area, what we want to make sure, you guys, I want to make sure that you're able to see this. There we go. So when you're working by the cuticle area, you want to make sure you can see how my nail is actually angled downward, even a little bit more straight down if you're if that works for you. But what you want to make sure is it's not flat. You don't want to be putting your product on flat, because what can happen there is when you put that product on, it's going to move down with gravity and it's going to run down the sides of the nail. If we keep that nail at a downward angle, we're going to be able to press out our product and it's going to flow down the length of the nail where we want it, okay? So let me come back out here. There we go. So when we're working on the free edge, we drained out that extra liquid and we made that into clay form. When we're working on our cuticle area, this is where we actually do want our product to flow a little bit. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to tap out the back side. We're going to press and pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. Now with this one, we're just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. And I want you guys to see this. Let me come in nice and close again. You're going to notice that your pearl is going to go from a little bit more of a textured, kind of an orange peel texture look. And then in those 4 to 5 seconds, it's going to look more like a pearl. So if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, see how it went from that orange peel to that pearl? That's exactly what we want. We didn't want to completely drain out that liquid because we don't want this pearl in that clay form we used on the free edge. We want it to flow a little bit, but not too much, okay? So let's go ahead and do that one. Oops, there's a little piece of, oh, there was a little bristle out of my brush there. Make sure to clean that out. Okay, so I'm going to tap the back side. Again, we're going to press and pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. I'm going to wait 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to set that right at my cuticle. The finger is angled downward. Press that down, release my brush, and then I'm just going to start to press out that cuticle area. Pivot my brush on the sides to really make sure that my sides are tapered in and they're not big and wide and chunky on the sides. I'm going to wipe out my brush, pivot my brush on the side. I'm going to blend out those sides. Pivot my brush on the other side, blend out that side, and then I'm just going to blend out the edge of that pearl. And by blending out the edge of that, that's going to leave a little bit more product right in my stress area, but it's also going to leave a nice thin and tapered cuticle area. So again, a little bit more thickness in our stress area right where we want that support, but it is going to leave us a little bit of a low spot right in the middle here, and that's okay. We're going to pick up another pearl and we're going to blend that in. Now our next pearl, this is going to be kind of in between that pearl that we used on the free edge and that pearl that we used by our cuticle area. So this one, I don't want to drain out all of the liquid and I want a little bit of a smaller pearl. So for this one, I'm going to dab my brush once, twice, and I'm just going to use just the point of the brush. I'm going to press and pull, bounce, bounce to get a little bit of a smaller pearl. Now again, with this one, I'm not going to drain out the liquid for 4 seconds. With this one, I'm just going to drain out for maybe just a quick dab. So let me show you that in real time here. So press, press. I'm going to press and pull, bounce, bounce. This one, we're just going to do a quick 1, 2 maybe. I'm going to turn my brush around. I'm going to set that pearl onto the nail and blend back. Blend back, pivot my brush on the sides and blend back. Same thing, pivot my brush on the side and blend back. I'm going to clean out my brush. I'm going to press out that pearl, bring that all the way down to the point of our nail. Walking across to make sure everything stays nice and smooth and even all the way through. And then I'm just going to gently blend that product all the way down to the free edge. Now, if you need to bring more product back up to your stress area, turn your brush around and blend backwards. If you need more thickness or to smooth out that nail, pull forwards, okay? So all different techniques on how you're gonna apply the nails. Now, let's go ahead and do a second nail. So again, we're gonna grab our forms, come back out. I'm gonna grab one of my forms off our roll. I'm gonna take that little tab out of the center, stick that on the back. We're gonna pinch our two silver tabs together, pinch the end because we're working on more of an almondetto shape, and we're gonna open up that top perforation. Now again, we're gonna come from, let me just pinch my form a little bit there. We're gonna come from at a slight downward angle. I'm gonna catch that free edge, lift up at the end until that form comes flush out from that natural nail, and then secure on the sides. Okay. All right, I'm going to tap down my powder, grab my liquid, and scooch that off to the side there. There we go. And you guys, you can see that my table towel has gotten a few pearls on there, and it's got a lot of extra liquid on there. This is why I like to cut those table towels into smaller pieces, because now I can just peel off that top layer, and I've got a nice clean spot to wipe my brush on. Okay, so again, we're going to pick up our pearl. I'm going to tap out the back side of my brush. We're going to press and pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. I'm going to let that absorb. I'm going to drain out 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to set that onto the form, a little bit of pressure, wipe out my brush, press that product out so it's even from side to side. I'm going to tuck in on the edges, walk that product up to the corner, tuck in on the side, walk that product all the way across, tuck in on the sides, walk that product up into the corner. I'm going to clean out my brush there, tuck in on the sides, walk that product. Now I'm going to start to press and pull that product down the length of our nail, so the length that we're trying to create, and I'm going to tuck in a little bit more on the sides. So a little bit more in on the edges to start to create more of that tapered look and that tapered shape. And then we'll start to bring that down a little bit more to a point. So you can see we're bringing that to a point, building a little bit more of an almondetto shape. If you were doing a coffin shape, you could turn your brush on the side and just push in on that free edge. So that way you're going to straighten out and make that coffin shape. But we're going to be doing a little bit more of that almond shape. So we're going to keep that nice and rounded at the point. Okay. All right, for our next pearl, again, we're going to dab out the back side of our brush. We're going to press and pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. This one, we're just going to wait. 1, 2, 3, 4. Angle the finger down, press my pearl down, use the point of my brush to press around that cuticle area, pivot the brush on the side. Again, that finger is angled downward, allowing that product to flow with gravity. Tuck in around those sides, pivot my brush on the side, blend out that edge, pivot my brush on the other side, blend out that edge, and then I'm just going to start to blend out the edge of that pearl, bringing that down the length of our nail. Okay. Again, leaving a little bit of thickness right in that stress area. So you can see we've got a little bit more thickness and a little bit more support right in that stress area, nice and thin and tapered at our cuticle area, nice and thin and tapered all the way around that cuticle area. So for our next pearl, we're going to pick up one more. Again, press out the back side. We're going to press and pull, bounce, bounce. That one, we're just going to drain 1, 2. I'm going to turn my brush around, set that down right in that low spot, blend back, blend back, blend back. Again, pivoting my brush on the sides, blending out those sides to make everything nice and tapered. And then we'll press and pull down the length of the nail. So press and pull, and then I'm going to just gently blend that out all the way down to the free edge. Okay, so we do have our structure in there now. Now you guys, I know these nails don't look absolutely perfect, and that's okay because you are going to be doing some filing. But as long as you have a nice thin and tapered cuticle area, you have your structure, you have a little bit of thickness in that stress area, and you have a nice tapered free edge, that's going to have the proper structure in there when you do your filing. Okay, and the nails will file out to that beautiful structure. Okay, do you guys let me know in the chat, do you want to see one more acrylic application or should we get to the art? Let me know in the chat there. acrylic, another application, or art? And I think I know what you're going to tell me, so I'm even going to take this nail off already. And I have another nail that I've got prepped and ready to go here. So I think you're going to tell me that you want to see this application again. So we're going to get our other nail in here. Again, that's prepped and ready to go. I'm just going to cleanse that with a little bit of swipe. And we will apply our 2 coats of protein bond. Oh, you guys want to see art? I mean, I promise I will do a little bit of art at the end here. I'm going to show you guys how to do what we've got on these other nails here. But let's do one more application with the acrylic just to make sure that you've got that good base knowledge, okay? And again, 2 coats of our protein bond, making sure that we've got great coverage there. You guys, art? Okay, well, we'll get to the art. I promise we'll get to the art. But one more application here. We'll get our form on, get that form pinched together, open up that top perforation. We'll get that form right up underneath there and secure that on. Okay. Why ask? You guys, there's a slight delay in the chat. So what I see is a little bit delayed from what I'm asking. So I was trying to be a mind reader, but that's okay. All right, so I'm gonna, again, press and pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. I'm gonna take that pearl, I'm gonna drain that out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring that more to that matte look on our pearl. Set that down onto my form. Give it a good press down, wipe out my brush, press that product so it's even from side to side. There we go. I'm going to use the edge of my brush to tuck in. There's a little bit of product stuck on my brush, so I wanted to clean that out. Tuck in on the edges, walk up into the corner. Tuck in, and then press all the way over across the nail. Tuck in on the sides, walk that back up into the corner. Tuck in on the sides, up into the corner. In on the sides, and then we're going to come all the way through, pressing all the way across, making sure everything is even from side to side. And then again, we'll start to tuck in on those edges, getting that nice and tapered, and then start to bring that a little bit more to that almond shape. I'm just going to blend through this, making sure everything is nice and smooth and even. And we'll just tuck in a little bit more to create a little bit more of that almondetto shape. Okay, and we'll pick up our pearl for our cuticle area. We're going to press and pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. This one we're just going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to set that right at my cuticle area with the finger angled downward. I'm going to press around that cuticle area, nice and thin and tapered, pivoting my brush on the sides, tucking in on those sides. I'm going to clean out my brush, pivot my brush completely, and blend through the sides. Pivot my brush on the other side, blend through the side. I'm going to wipe my brush, and then I'm going to just start to blend out all the way through that edge, pulling that product down the length of the nail, leaving a little bit of thickness right in our stress area, and blending through. We're going to pick up one more small pearl. We're going to press and pull, bounce, bounce. Take that pearl, drain 1, 2, turn my brush around, set that right down in that low spot, and blend back, pivoting my brush on the sides again, wipe out my brush. I'm going to press that product from side to side, and then we're going to blend out. I'm going to wipe my brush, and you guys, every time I wipe my brush, the reason for that is because as I'm blending, it's probably picking up a little bit of that excess acrylic residue. So I want to make sure that I'm wiping out that acrylic out of my brush so it doesn't stick to my brush or stick back onto the nail. Okay, just going to tuck in a little bit on those edges. I think on this one, I'm going to blend backwards just a little bit to bring a little bit more thin out my free edge just a little bit more and bring a little bit more of that product back up into my stress area. Okay. All right, so we've got our nails sculpted out. Now, normally, you guys, I would go through and I would file out the nails. Oh, you guys, okay, let's get on to our art. But normally I would file out the nails and then do our art. But you guys, I'm not going to show you the filing. If you do want to see the filing and finishing, we do have over 3,000 videos here on our YouTube channel, so you can find videos on how to do all of the filing and finishing. But I am going to swap out for a couple of finished nails so that I can show you guys the art, and because you guys have been wanting to see that art. So let's go ahead and jump to the art. So what I've got are 2 nails that are filed out. So I've gone through and I've filed these out with my electric file, and then I finished with my 150 grit hand file. So that's where we're at with these. So for our art, I'm going to go through and dust off the nails, making sure that there's no dust on there. And we're going to go back to our swipe, pump a little bit of that onto my manicure brush, and then we'll go through and we'll use that swipe to really cleanse those nails again. And again, this is going to remove any last little bits of dust, any surface oils that may be on there, and we're also going to end up with a nice clean dry surface now. Okay, now we are going to go back to our protein bond one more time. This is going to help to allow our gel that we're going to be using on here, it's going to help to give it a little bit more of a sticky surface for our gel to adhere to. So this time, when we were prepping the nails on that natural nail, we applied 2 coats of our protein bond, but over this surface, now we only need 1 coat. So we're just going to brush on 1 even coat all the way through, again from cuticle to free edge, making sure that I'm not flooding that product onto the skin, onto the cuticle, and anything like that. All right, now you guys, if you haven't seen any of our live streams recently, you're missing out, first of all. But we do have some new products launching on November 1st for our Black Friday sale. And so I'm going to be using some of those new products. And these are our, I have to stop and think, dark ombre pat gels. Okay, so these are gels, and we've got 3 different colors that we're going to be using today. We've got orange, red, and kind of a really pretty deep burgundy color. Okay, now if you notice, when I opened these, I flipped open the top. Okay, you can also unscrew the cap, and you're going to have full access to all of the gel that's in the container. But if you open that flip top, you're going to notice there's a little piece of kind of a fabric mesh in there. The purpose of this is, I'm going to show you what else we've got. This is our little claw tool, and we also have little pieces of sponge. So our claw tool, we're going to use the claw tool. I've already got one in here, but we're going to open up, or just push the top of that claw. It's going to open up that claw. You're going to grab onto a little piece of sponge, and we're going to be able to use this for dabbing on and creating our beautiful ombre looks. Now, I actually have, let me grab my other one. I have 2 different ones that I've got here. It's actually the same claw tool. But you guys, when you're working with multiple colors like we're going to be working with today, I like having an extra one. Now the pat gels are coming in a kit, and you get all of those colors together, but the claw tool and the sponges you will be able to get separately, so you can kind of restock as needed. But I would definitely recommend having 2 of those, at least 2 of those, so that way you're not going to kind of cross-contaminate your colors as you're working. So that's what we're going to be working with. So that's what we've got here. But I want to show you guys, when you're working with the sponges, so let me show you here real quick. So I'm going to open up my sponges. Let me take that one out. So all you're going to do, push that little top down, open up that little claw grip, and you're going to just grab onto one of those sponges, and it's going to open, or it's going to hang on to that for you. Now, when I'm working up around my cuticle area, you guys, we're going to be dabbing some of that color on there. Sometimes I have a couple of different techniques that work really well around the cuticle area. Notice that on the sponge that I just picked up, it's half the size of the one that I was using. You guys, sometimes I will actually take my scissors and just give that sponge a little cut in half, so that when I'm working around the cuticle, or even, you guys, depending on those little teeny tiny nails, you can even cut that into even smaller, and just grab onto that tiny little piece there. And that way, as you're working up into that cuticle area, you've got a little bit more control where you're putting your product so that you don't get that product on the skin, okay? Just a couple of little helpful hints there. Now, the other thing is, I showed you that when you open up that flip top, it's got that little mesh in there. The purpose of that is so when you're dabbing your brush into that gel, it's not going to oversaturate that sponge and pick up too much gel, okay? If we were to just go right in here, if I dab that in there, you're going to see you're going to get way too much gel on your brush, and it's going to kind of overload your brush or your sponge. So you want to make sure that you're using that little mesh inside to help release some of that excess, okay? Now, I will show you one technique where I actually do use the gel right from the container, and that's when I'm working right up by the cuticle area. So sometimes I will grab my gel brush and I'll take just a tiny little bit of that paint. So you guys, this is gel, but it's a very, very thick consistency. So I'll take just a little bit on my brush here. You can, a little bit closer there for you. So I'll take a little bit on my gel brush, and then I'm going to work that right up into the cuticle area. So I'm just going to start by brushing that through my cuticle area, just again to help so that way I'm not going to get that, that gel on the skin as I'm doing my design. So this is just a really easy way to get really, really close and really tight up into that cuticle area. Then I'll put my cap back on my jar, close that back up, and then I can use my sponge and I can dab in there, grab a little bit more of that gel color, and then I can come through and I can start to ombre that and blend that. So this way my gel is going to start to kind of fade out right at the end. And one other thing, I forgot to grab my tile. A lot of times I like to have just a little ceramic tile or an art palette. I like to just set that right down in front of me. So this way, if I need to, I can dab out some of that extra gel. So if I want to maybe get my product to blend a little bit more, just kind of dab that out, even make little circular motions to get some of that excess out. And that way I can really blend out and ombre that edge. So I'm not overdoing it with color right at that ombre area, okay? Now, this is the reason that I like to have two different sponges ready and available, because we're going to be doing a couple of different colors. So this one is my red sponge, and then my other one is my orange. So I'm just going to clean out some of that excess. But for this one, I'm going to take a little bit of that lighter red, kind of that brighter red. We'll dab that in. And I'm going to start with that right through the center. So just kind of dabbing that right through the center. Now it doesn't look very blended at this point, and that's okay. Just wanting to make sure that I'm getting all the way to the edges, carefully trying not to get any product on the skin, but I'm going to show you guys what to do if you do accidentally get that on the skin. But again, drain out or kind of clean out some of that excess paint. And you guys, I kind of do kind of a little circular motion here to really get that paint from the edges. And then I'm going to blend right through where that orange and the red come together. Okay, so this is how you're going to get that really pretty clean ombre, by getting rid of some of that excess paint, and then you can blend all the way through. Okay, we're going to dab through that end there a little bit too, blend that out. We're going to grab our third color, and this is our darker color. Now I am still using that red sponge, but that's okay because this one isn't going to blend in with the orange. Okay, so we're going to take that darker color, blending through our free edge, grab a little bit more of that dark color, blending through that free edge, deepening up that color on the end. I'm going to get rid of a little bit of that excess. Oh, sorry guys, you can't see what I'm doing. Get rid of that, a little bit of that excess paint. And then again, we can blend right through where those two colors meet. Okay, now you can see I did get a tiny little bit of that gel on the skin. You do want to make sure that you clean that off before you cure. And we can just grab a little bit of our swipe here and either swipe or polish remover. Either one is going to work. Let me show you guys this here. So I'm just going to pump a little bit of that up into that top cup, and I'm using our Polish Perfector detail brush. And I'm just going to use this to clean up around those edges, make sure that that gets cleaned off before you cure. Now, at this point, if I were doing a full set, I would go back into the UV LED light to cure these. But for today, I'm just going to use our Touch Cure light just to kind of freeze this into place. Okay, so if you're working on a full set, I would get this into the light for at least a minimum of 30 seconds to set that into place before you go on to your next coat. Now, do you have to do 2 coats? No, but if you want a little bit more bold design and a little bit more bold color, then I would definitely go with 2 coats. Okay, so just enough to set that into place. And then we'll go back and do our second coat. Again, if you like how that color is looking, you can just leave that as it is. I'm going to go back with our second coat, take a little bit more of that orange. Now with this one, I don't necessarily have to brush out my cuticle area. I don't have to use that brush to do that cuticle area. If I feel like I need some more paint up there, then I can go through that. But I feel like my color it's got good coverage by my cuticle area, so I don't need to go through and rebrush with, or reapply with the brush. So just kind of blending that out through the top. We'll take our second sponge, grab a little bit of that lighter red, blend through the center, deepening up that color a little bit more. I'm going to just start to blend that down towards the free edge. Clean out a little bit of that from my brush or from my sponge. And then just start to dab through and blend through that orange. Now, if I feel like I need to, I can always come back and use that orange to really get that to blend. So it's all about using your colors and using those colors together to just get them to blend really, really, really well. Okay. And because of the consistency and the pigmentation of these ombre gels, you guys, you're going to get really good coverage and minimal effort, and you're going to get beautiful ombres every time. So grab a little bit more of that darker color and blending that all the way through. All right, so I think I'm liking how that looks. Again, I would get this into the light, either the UV LED light for 30 seconds, or if you're just maybe working on one nail, you can do like I'm doing here and just freeze that into place with our Touch Cure light. Either way is going to work. They're going to be just fine either way. Now, you guys, do you want to see, let me know in the chat, do you want to see the darker at the cuticle area? Because on this first one that we did the lighter at the cuticle area. Do you want me to mix up the second one? Or maybe, you know what? Maybe let's just do a two-color blend. Yeah, I think let's do that. Okay. All right, you guys, sometimes as you're working, you get a lot of different inspiration. So you just kind of go with your inspiration. So on our next one here, let's just ombre the light and the dark. So let's start with the dark one. And again, this one I'm going to use up by my cuticle area. So I'm going to open up that container, use my brush. I'm going to grab a little bit of that gel, on my brush. And you guys, you can see that this gel is super, super thick. It's not going to run. It's not going to flow. It's not going to go anywhere. So don't worry about if you knock your gel or your containers over, it's not going to move. So this one will just get, like I said before, just right up into that cuticle area, tucking that right up in there. Now, I still always leave a tiny, tiny little bit of space right up around my cuticle area. So that way you're not touching skin, you're not going to overexpose your client to that product. So always, whatever product you're using, even if it's just regular air dry polish, you always want to leave that tiny little space, that little hairline space right up around that cuticle area. but because these gels are so thick, they're not going to run and move and flow up into that cuticle area. So you can get really, really nice and close, really nice and tight up into that cuticle. Okay. All right, let's grab our sponge again. This one, like I said, this one I think we're just going to do 2 colors because I still want to get to some fun designs for you guys. So we're just going to blend that out, ombre that down about halfway, and you can start to see that just gently blending out. You guys, even just those 2 colors, the color of our cover pink underneath would be beautiful combination here. And then we'll grab our orange and we'll start from our free edge, working back, blending all the way through. Oh, you guys, this is really fun. And even with just the 2 colors, when they come together in the center, that's going to form a 3rd color. So you don't even have to use 3 different colors. You're going to get 2 different colors on the ends here and then a different color in the center. Okay, let's go ahead and freeze that one into place. Give it just a quick, again, 20 seconds or so, 20 to 30 seconds or so, just to set that. And then we'll go ahead and do our 2nd coat. All right, so again, now at this point, I'm going to put that cap back on to my container, close that up, and we'll dab right into that mesh. So at this point, you can see our cuticle area is a little bit darker. So that's why I don't need to go back in with my brush. I've got enough color in the back to give that coverage that I want. So grab a little bit more and just blending all the way through. Start to blend that down into the orange. If you feel like you've got too much color on there and you want to remove some of that, again, grab that little tile, dab out that extra, clean that off of your sponge, and then you can go through and start to blend that out. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's so fiery. It just looks so fiery. And I'm not sure if camera even does justice to this, but it's absolutely beautiful. So we'll grab a little bit of that orange and we'll finish out our ombre. So just tapping that on there, blending that in. So you guys, this is probably the easiest way to do an ombre. We've got all kinds of different colors. We have white, we have black, we've got all kinds of different colors. So if you're wanting to do those pink and white ombres, this is going to be a great product for you as well. So again, we're going to freeze that into place, just maybe 20 to 30 seconds or so. And you guys, when we go through and we do our final cure on this, these layers are going to fully cure all the way through. So when I say that I'm only freezing this into place for 20 to 30 seconds, it will fully cure once we do our final look, okay? All right, so we've got our ombres on there. So where are our little falling leaves this time of year? You guys, I'm going to show you a really fun, really quick, easy way to do some really cute fall leaves. And again, this is not available on our website any longer, but we still do have our stamping plates on our Whatnot channel. So you guys make sure to join us on Whatnot if you want to get these stamping plates. Everything else is either available now on our website or is going to be the ombre pat gels are going to be available starting November 1st for our Black Friday sale. So that's where you can get all of these great products. I'm going to just make sure my stamping plate is nice and clean. So I'm going to take a little bit of my onto the next polish remover. We're going to go through, clean that off really, really well. And then you guys, you can see we've got some really cute fall leaves in this one. So those really cute fall leaves. So I'm going to take, now I'm going to use my regular polish, okay? For my stamping, I'm going to use my regular polish, and this one is called Your Name Here. And I've got my polish, I've got my stamping tool, and I've got my stamping tool cleaner. So I do want to make sure, run that over real quick to make sure that's nice and clean. And then last but not least, I've got my scraping card. So when you're doing your stamping, you're going to scrape across there using that card. I do want to make sure the end is nice and clean here. And you guys, again, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you want to see more designs and more stamped designs, we do have a ton of different videos on our website or on our channel here, our YouTube channel, on how to do stamping. So I'm just going to do a really quick application. I've got 2 different designs that I'm going to use for you. But let's start with, whoops, I got to make sure my stamping tool is clean there. So I'm going to just take my polish, use a little bit of that polish. I'm going to brush right across the edge. I'm going to scrape across. I'm going to stamp down and pick up our design. And we're going to set that right down onto our nail. Oops, sorry guys, you can't see. So I'm using some pressure on there. Release. Now we've got some little frayed edges. I'm not worried too much about that. Oh, you guys come in a little closer there. So we've got those little frayed edges. I'm going to show you how to clean that up really quick. But let me do our second nail here. So again, we're going to go through. I'm going to clean off my stamping tool. I am going to use a little bit of polish remover, clean off my plate. Whoops, you guys, make sure you can see there. Okay, clean off my plate. I'm going to use a little bit more of my polish, brush that right through, use my scraping card, scrape off the excess, pick up my design, and then we'll set that right onto our nail. Oh, you guys, so fun, so fun. So to remove those little bits of that polish right around the edges, I'm going to grab my onto the next polish remover, and just like we did, whoops, sorry guys, there we go. Just like we did earlier, I'm going to pump a little bit of that up into the top cup, use my Polish Perfector detail brush, clean up around those edges, and you've got that super cute fall leaf design. Now I am going to seal these with our top coat, and I'm going to use our gel top coat, and let me finish cleaning this up. So you guys, whenever we start our top coat, that is your cue to do the top coat chant in the chat. And if you are new to our channel, first of all, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on all of the free education and fun designs and all kinds of fun things. But our top coat chant in the chat, if you don't know what that is basically just start typing in top coat, top coat, top coat into the chat. And that is our way of finishing up our nails. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to finish our nails, and on these 2, you guys, on the 2 that we have our design on, I'm going to use our Ultimate Finish Gel. This is our high shine top coat. This is a one-step, kind of a one-step top coat. You don't need to cleanse anything. It is a tack-free finish. So we're going to brush a coat of that on. And then I'll show you guys the other top coat that I used, but as I'm brushing this on, it just is making that design come to life. So you could either use, you know what, I'm going to do a different one on our second nail here. On our other nail down here, I used our matte finish top coat. So I think that's what I'm going to use on this one. But this one is going to be our matte non-tack top coat as well. So both of these top coats are going to have a non-tack finish, and you're not going to have to cleanse anything off of them. But with our Ultimate Finish, that is going to be a high shine look. And then with our matte non-tack is going to be a matte finish. Okay. Now these I am going to put into our UV LED light. And a full cure on both of these top coats, both the matte non-tack and the Ultimate Finish. Both of these do need to cure in the light for 60 seconds. Now, normally I will just leave these in for about 30 seconds for you guys, so that way you can see the finished look. But you guys, I'm not seeing a whole lot of top coats in the chat there, so make sure, okay, now I'm seeing them. Make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you can join our community, and text in our chat, type in top coat, top coat, top coat, and are we ready for the final look? I think this has been in for, it's been in for about 40 seconds, so it's enough to show you guys that look. All right, so let me bring that in so you guys can see. that really fun fall ombre. You can use your high shine finish, you can have a matte finish, you can have just a solid nail, however you want to create those designs. But let me see if I can get a little bit of a better view for you here. All right, there we go. I think that is about what we can do. So you guys, I hope you enjoyed our designs today. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something today, and I hope you have subscribed and will come back and join us again. So you guys, again, make sure join us on our Whatnot channel. We've got some great deals going on there. Make sure to join us again back on November 1st on our website for our sale. We've got some great, amazing deals on our Black Friday sale. And also join us the rest of the week here. Usually we're live 3 times a week. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, we usually go live here on our YouTube channel. So make sure to join us then. All right, you guys, thanks for being here. We'll see you guys back next